Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Hey You, Stop Strolling or Stop Scrolling, Start Connecting. Today's presentation is hosted by the Prairie Communicators. This is the Southeast or South, I think I need more coffee today, Southwest District of the North Dakota Professional Communicators. We're the group based in Bismarck. My name is Sarah Mutter. I am the Southwest District Chair. For those of you who aren't familiar with North Dakota Professional Communicators, our membership is made up of individuals employed in every aspect of communications. We work for businesses, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies. We have small business owners and freelancers. Our members are committed to the advancement of communications professions, the exchange of ideas, and the recognition and encouragement of our membership. So before I turn the screen over to our presenter, I have a couple quick announcements for you. First up, North Dakota Professional Communicators wants to spruce up our logo. We're hosting the national conference next year. And so we currently have a design competition going on, looking to give our organization a more modern and inviting look. So all of you graphic gurus out there, be sure to check out the contest rules on NDPC's website. I'll drop a link into the chat here in a second, but those entries are due by April 21st. And the winner goes home with $250 in your pocket. So if you are inspired, please follow up on that and submit an entry again by April 21st. Despite the snow we've had this last week, it's spring, and that means spring cleaning. So all of you members that are on the line here, make sure you're going in and sprucing up your membership profile as well. If you haven't logged into our new website yet, you're able to upload a profile picture. You're able to make sure that you have the contact information you have in there. You are able to go in and add yourself to specific communications groups. If you're job hunting, or if you know someone's job hunting, you can make sure you receive those associated announcements. So do log in and spruce up your profile. Finally, North Dakota Professional Communicators is hosting its spring conference virtually this year. It's being hosted by the Grand Forks Group, but again, like I said, it's a virtual event. On Thursday, April 22nd, we're going to do our awards banquet, and that's going to be basically an announcement of our communications contest winners, as well as an announcement of this year's Communicator of Achievement. On Friday, the 23rd, is the actual conference, which is going to be a pretty exciting event. The theme is the changing face of the media. And if nothing else, I think you would want to tune in if you work with the media for the panel presentation with editors and publishers from across the state. We're going to talk about the impact of the pandemic and just the way things have changed with the way their organizations do business. And I believe that's at 1 p.m. right after lunch. The conference registration fee is $50 for members, and it is $75 for non-members. And I believe the plan is to send the first 100 individuals who register some NDPC swag, so get yourself signed up. So I have a couple tech reminders for you. I think a lot of you are familiar with Zoom, but if you're not, if you want to submit a question in the chat, those controls are in the lower center of your screen. Also in the same area, you can click on the raise hand feature. I know Patrick wants some interactive discussion today, so find those tools, and if you have questions you want to be, or comments you want to be unmuted for, raise your hand and I will unmute you. Otherwise, you can enter, like I said, comments in the chat. So Patrick Kirby is our speaker today. Patrick's actually out of the Fargo area. He's the founder of Do Good Better Consulting. He's he's the author of an Amazon bestseller called Fundraise Awesomer, a practical guide to staying sane while doing good. He's the host of the official Do Good Better podcast, and a believer that we've always done it this way is the most dangerous phrase in the English language. So if you are wondering what Businesses or government organizations can learn from the nonprofit world when it comes to messaging, engagement, and building better relationships with clients. Well, it turns out a ton. And here to teach and inspire us is Patrick.
Patrick. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate the intro. It is still incredibly awkward to have somebody read your bio while you're staring at them reading said bio. So I appreciate that. So my name is Patrick Kirby. I am the founder of Do Good Better. It might behoove you, or it might confuse you on why a nonprofit guy in a consulting role is talking to business and government leaders and some nonprofits about communication and stopping scrolling and sort of getting the attention of marketing folk. I think you can learn a whole heck of a lot from the nonprofit world because they do things fantastically. And I think I'm going to take all of the 16 years I've got of experience in the fundraising realm that has to do with marketing. I'm going to squeeze it into about 40 minutes, 35 minutes, and give everything that I possibly can and unveil some knowledge for you. I speak at like 1,000 miles per hour, mostly because I've been drinking coffee since 5 in the morning. Secondly, because I just get really excited talking about this kind of stuff. So if I'm going too fast, or I have said something that you are completely in disagreement with, or you have a question about something that I have said, please drop it in the comments. I'm going to take questions as they come in, as they sort of relate to how I've outlined today. And I'm more than happy to answer any specific question, which is going to be great. We've got such a nice little intimate group here today that if you had any specific questions, or you wanted to work out some sort of problem or question in real time, I am happy to do so. I'm coming to you from sunny Florida, family vacation day, and there's a 100% chance that I am wearing swim trunks underneath this polo. So I want to tell you that sunshine does exist and snow does go away, because I'm experiencing it right now. Not to make anything, it's great. So a couple of things. One, why is the a nonprofit talking about this? I have said for a long period of time that I think businesses should treat their customers the way nonprofits treat their donors. And what I mean by that is the nonprofit world has long established wonderful ability to tell stories and sort of get people on their side, even though they might not know what their organization particularly does. And their ability to communicate and their ability to sort of like, hey, pay attention to us sort of communication style is something that I think a lot of businesses and organizations, and yes, even government entities can pay attention to. So we're going to go over a bunch of tips and tricks there as well. A couple of things before we get started with the details is I think a lot of this topic started because we want to rise above the noise. Social media specifically is a very busy place. And as the pandemic sort of rolled on, everybody started getting online. Everybody seems to be zoomed out. Everybody has the attention span of gnats. So how do we counter some of those things? And by doing the opposite of what most people are doing and being a little more creative in the way that we tell our story or say hi in general is the tip that I would give you. And we'll give you some examples of that today. Also, there is a sponsored post-nuclear proliferation going on. I don't know if you've seen this recently, but everything that if you click on now, if random post in the internet or random thing on social media, you are immediately bombarded with about 10 different products or services or things that are trying to grab your attention that are related to either what you have clicked on or said on Alexa nowadays, where they just kind of know everything's linked up together and it's part of the algorithm. And I know that a lot of organizations who want to communicate with a lot of people say, okay, well, let's throw $100 at it. Let's put this up for a couple $100 and we'll try to sponsor a post. That $100, unless you target absolutely correctly, doesn't get you in front of the right people. And so it seems to be wasting a couple $100 rather than coming up with curated, unique content that's pretty fantastic. Also, we used to be able to count on the algorithm for social media and other things like Google to almost like update quarterly. And now it updates in real time. That's what the AI system that these social media places have don't necessarily have an update. And now magically we know what the algorithm is to get in front of the most people is. It now works in real time. And because things sort of blow up on social media right away, that distracts people from even looking or considering some of your topics, you have to be super purposeful with what you post, how enthusiastic you post, how aggressively you post, and then really how you communicate in general. That's not just social media too. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So what's the business model? Better stories of the impact that you make is the way to communicate better with your stakeholders. And yes, even government has great stories of success. They have as successful stories as business does. And yes, businesses have stories that are equally as important to the general public as the nonprofit world. Nonprofits do have an advantage instinctively that they have a brand, they have a mission. And as long as they stick with that mission, they stick with that brand, people sort of latch onto it. Businesses and sort of government entities in particular kind of are all over the place occasionally. So really what we want to do is, what is the thing we want to focus on? In the nonprofit world is we have an event or we have some sort of a cure we want to do, right? It's the thing. Getting as micro level as possible when you are creating content and creating the ability to click on stuff so that we don't scroll by it is super important. And the more niche-y you get, the more clarifying that you are of your own audience, and then you can grow big. It seems counterintuitive, right? I know that we have to cast a wide net to catch as many people as possible, but when you are focused in on some of your communication skills, you got to be as niche-y as possible. I'll give you an example. So if you are a cats and dogs organization, you help rescue them, your niche might be this puppy who came to us, needed sheltering and needs a surgery. This surgery is going to cost this amount of money, and that's why we are coming to you and engaging with you on social media. As a whole, as an organization, you probably spay and you neuter and you board and you train and you rescue and all of these good things. But what you are posting specifically is this microcosm of what our nonprofit does is the type of content that we are going to make explode and get picked up by newscasts and get picked up by the media, or get the ears or interests of people who are really empathetic to a specific small surgery of that puppy. Does that make sense? So that's what I kind of want us to think about today when we are crafting our social media messages or our communication messages in general is, what sort of niche can we get down to? What are we trying to get our dedicated supporters to? And yes, there are dedicated supporters to government because you provide programs and services that they all need, right? So if you've got a question too, if some of these questions are like, hey, this post that we thought was going to be great didn't go. Type that in the chat and we'll kind of talk about that. Or we're too big, or we don't have a specific thing that we're trying to communicate. Type that in the chat and we'll sort of work out that in real time. Nonprofits have dedicated supporters. They have raving fans. And the reason they have raving fans is that because they know who their target audience is. These individuals will really love kids. We're a kids nonprofit, right? So we do, this specific educational piece within kids is going to latch onto the brains of somebody else. And it's going to be really, really great. So what you want to do is consider your business is, who on earth are you trying to get in front of? It goes to the next point that I really want to make is, what is the purpose of the engagement that you're trying to achieve? A lot of businesses, and especially a lot of the C-suite level executives, are going to look at, well, how many likes did that get? How many times did this get liked? Or that like button is a deadly and a dangerous thing to play in the communication world. Those are vanity metrics. Those mean nothing but a couple people with just kind of paused, liked, and moved on with their life. Is your purpose vanity metrics, or is your purpose sales or engagement or some sort of action call with your post? And you need to determine which one of those things you're trying to do. Now, if it's clickbait, that's easy. Pay a bunch of money, come up with some salacious headline that you're all sort of well aware on what you stop and you click on in social media, right? You could do that. It could probably be on brand, but what's that going to accomplish? And I think in the nonprofit world specifically, we know exactly what we're trying to accomplish. It's raising money, or it's coming to an event, or doing something. So when you're thinking about this from a business standpoint, don't necessarily post or sort of get engagement for the sake of engagement. Be purposeful with it, because you're going to get the right people looking at the right thing at the right time to do whatever action step that you want. So let's just say you want them to come into a bank, or you want them to purchase a ticket to said event, or you want them to be very clear on a specific call to action from some sort of government agency or sort of program that you're unveiling. That's the type of really conversation you need to have before you even come up with some of these communication messages. And the nonprofits do that really well, because at the end game, they always want, what do we want? We need to raise money. No money, no mission. So if we don't have a money coming in, we're not going to be able to do the programs and services that we have. That's very business centric. If we don't have clarity on who we need to get in the doors, if we don't have the type of customer that we actually need, we got to close the doors. We're not going to get anybody else. So really getting clear in that makes sense. So makes sense so far. Throw a yep, totally makes sense, or nope, I'm very confused on all of this and this makes no sense. Throw it in the chat, and if it doesn't, type out a question, because I want to ask or I want to help as best I can. I have a couple of examples of engagement that works on social media and in the realm of communication. Okay, not all of this will work for everybody, but when we come to events like this and we're listening to people, is, hey, I don't really know even where to start. A lot of nonprofits will say this, is like, there's so many options. We've got, should I start 7 TikTok accounts? Should I go now on LinkedIn? Should I do Facebook? Should I get into Instagram? Should I go to these? Should I go to, what is it, Clubhouse now, which is kind of like the audio version of Facebook? There are so many freaking places to go. Here's a tip. Do what you're really good at. Spend time where you know your niche is. And that goes back to kind of what talking about your purpose and who you're trying to engage, right? So I really want to make sure that you don't scatter yourself and do okay in like 12 different things, but be really good in the niches that you are. I will tell you right off the bat, I am awful at a lot of things, which I'm not even on TikTok. Instagram is confusing to me. It just seems to be like Facebook with pictures. I'm also old, so I don't understand a lot of those things. And so it's really hard to do all of the things that I want to do, because I'm really just only a Facebook and I am a LinkedIn kind of guy. That makes sense. Rarely people are on Twitter here in North Dakota, which is really weird. It's like 5 people on Twitter. So I don't spend a lot of time there, but I know where my audience is. My audience is on Facebook. I have an idea of who my ideal client is, and they all live on Facebook. So I doubled and tripled down on the amount of content that I do. So that's kind of just a thing to keep in mind while we kind of go through some of these examples of what works with engagement, and that makes sense. Andrea had a question, one comment: much of what we post is supporting our brand or communicating our culture, not really an action item. So hard to measure. It is. So Andrea, so what of your brand? Do you just want people to know about your brand, or do you want people just to know about your culture? Or is the purpose to hire great people? Is the purpose to recruit new people? Is it the purpose to find individuals who are in our realm that, or in your region, that would maybe match well with a business itself? Like, that might be a question to ask yourself on the purpose, right? And then from that, you can measure an outcome. So really, if you're posting a bunch of brand and posting a bunch of culture things, that's wonderful. What are you trying to do with that? And that's the question that I think everybody needs to ask when they are posting and engaging on social media. What the hell are you doing this for? It takes time, it takes energy, it takes creative brain power. You overthink half of this, and if you don't have something you're trying to do, you can't measure the outcome of something you don't know. So I'll throw that to you, Andrea, if you wanted to pop in later, or you wanted to sit questions of like, hey, what are some of the things that you want to accomplish? But that's a really good question, and a really good thing to think about when everybody else is listening is like, why are we doing this? What's our purpose? We got a great bunch of content, but why on earth are we doing things? Okay, so one of the things that you can do that really helps with your engagement is posting questions in groups, specifically Facebook groups. It's posting questions. What do I mean by that? Everybody belongs to a group, right? You belong to a knitting group, to a I live in West Fargo group, to a, I don't know, I enjoy Ninja Turtle Saturday morning cartoons back in the 80s group. Whatever group that you belong to, I'm not going to judge. But really, if you look at the amount of things on Facebook, Facebook really rewards people who work in groups. It's one of the things that we can determine right now that is a fact. And I'm using Facebook as an example, but there's a lot of different groups that you can kind of join and that just gather on Facebook. And I just want to give you an example of kind of how you interact with that. Is asking questions to groups that are in your rough profession. I'll give you an example that I use, which is the nonprofit professionals group, or so it's or nonprofit consultant groups. But usually you can't promote yourself. Like I can't come into a nonprofit group, Nonprofits Unleashed. I'll use that. It's hosted by Network for Good. They have posting policies of like, hey, no soliciting of your goods. I can't go in there and say, hey, I'd like you to buy my book. It's really helpful for all of you. Can't do that. So you have to be creative on how you engage the members of that group by creating interesting questions that give you an answer then to follow up with them individually. So I posed a question just a couple of weeks ago, which was really interesting about how many responses I got. I was considering writing a book or a little ebook on asking better questions to donors. I figure that's probably an interesting thing to have in somebody's hands. Say, okay, I'm interacting with somebody before. I don't really have a list of questions. What are some good ones to start? You'd be surprised a year and change into a pandemic on how people forget how to interact with people. It's weird. So I was going to write a handful of questions that you can have as starter questions, either over Zoom or over coffee or over the phone. So I posted the question, hey, what's your favorite question to ask a donor? And that was all. All my post was. I was genuinely curious on what response people would get. I had hundreds of responses, not likes, responses. So I know exactly what some of these individuals across the nonprofit landscape are trying or using and trying to use that they found is beneficial in a conversation with the donor. So by asking a simple question, I get massive engagement because I'm not selling anything. I'm not nefariously trying to like infiltrate what they're trying to do, but I now understand my base of customers a little bit better. And now I can customize my talking points about, hey, try this question the next time that you meet with a donor. So my next post in the group can be, what I've learned a lot from you guys is this. This works, and here's a question that I would ask some of your donors. Try it and let me know what happens. I'm not asking for a business. I'm not asking for them to hop on my website and buy anything from me. All I'm doing is posting the question, and here's a bunch of really good content. Try it, let me know what you think. Free advice that I have given out. And now people are contacting me to say, hey, what else do you have? Or what else are you doing? So really, you need to think about that. You personally become a point of contact and you become a point of content creation in some of these groups, and your interaction is going to be absolutely crazy. So I would, for those of you listening and those in the chat too, is what's a question that you would want to know from your customer base, from those that you serve, those that you have clients with? What's a question that you are genuinely curious about them? So ask them in the comments, and I'd love to see kind of the kind of where your head's at, because this is the type of engagement online that gets you more clicks and more comments than anything else. You can have the coolest and awesomest video, which we're going to talk about next. But one of the things that everybody seems to be doing right now is that, now, what's the background look like? Facebook has all of these little backgrounds that they have that are already sort of preset. Use a color, use a question, and that's it. And that's the best engaging thing that you have on Facebook right now. And I know you know this because you're scrolling through and you'll see somebody like, hey, what's everybody having for dinner? It's like 100 different things that people are randomly saying. Look, potato tot hot dish. Here's a photo of it. That type of stuff Facebook loves because it builds an engagement. So their algorithm sees that as something like, oh, I'm going to get this in front of as many people as possible. So let me know what what questions that you generally have. Now, going back to Andrea's comment, you can use those questions to get clarity on what the heck you want to measure as an outcome. So I want to measure who would be interested in engaging an ebook about asking better questions to donors. I now have 100 people as a proof of concept that that is something that they think about, that they're interested in, and that I could probably interact at some point or have somebody on my behalf, which we'll talk about in the second, third-party endorsement, on my behalf say, hey, check out this. Make sense? Give me a make sense thing here, because I can't see your face because we're on the interwebs. All right, another thing is how to make your videos more engaging. A thing that a lot of people know is that live video on Facebook is the biggest thing that gets the most action on Facebook. You got to go for over 3 minutes. I mean, these are all the basics that I think most people know. If you don't, let me know. I will tell you some of the basics. One of the things that, whether you're on YouTube or that you see people scrolling through, is that you're always drawn to a thumbnail, and that's like a little mini photo of what kind of gives you a highlight of why on earth you should click on it. So it's usually some really creative marketing content there. Is the thumbnail is almost more important than the content, and the title of your video is actually more important than what you have as content as well. You're trying to get people's attention in a place that everybody is vying for people's attention. And as good as your content might be for your videos, the photo of the video title screen or what you put as your thumbnail while people are scrolling through is equally as important. Usually it's bold letters across. You can use this in Canva, by the way, and Canva is totally free. If you're not using that, you should, it's great. But you can actually create, they have their own YouTube or video thumbnail templates you can use there for free, and you just copy and paste all of your information in there and make it big and make it bold and make it, sort of like, have your face there, or some sort of kid. Maybe you're a kids nonprofit, or maybe you're a business that has something to do with this, or government, whatever that is that makes people like, oh crap, what's that? And they scroll back and click. And even if they don't, watch the whole 12-minute video, they're now in the algorithm system of they clicked on your stuff, and they're going to see it more often. And that's really what the goal is here, especially for social media. I talked briefly about third-party endorsement of your stuff. It's great that you as professional communicators are expected to be the promoters of whatever you are promoting and communicating. It is unexpected that other people in random places around the world also love your stuff enough that they promote it for you. Third-party endorsement is exponentially more important than first-party solicitation. I will say that again because it's very important. Third-party endorsement is exponentially more important than first-party solicitation. What I mean by that is, in the nonprofit world, as a development director, you are expected to raise money. You're expected to ask people to buy tickets to events. You're expected to, promote whatever marketing pieces there are. That's expected. What's unexpected is people who aren't getting paid by your organization, who are not on the board, who are not volunteers, to love your stuff so much that they post on your behalf about how, saying, hey, this organization or this business did amazing things. We always look for feedback, right? You've got customer surveys you send out all the time. If you're in the banking industry, you're always sort of like, hey, how can we help you better? Or how can we serve you better? If you're in the manufacturing industry, you're always looking for reviews of your stuff. Why do we go on Amazon and only look for 5-star reviews from random strangers we've never met? We don't even know if they bought them or not, right? But we take their word as gospel because they put 5 stars on this review. I think it's probably a great product, and that's pretty great, right? So that's really an excellent way of justifying that you need people to come out and do the things that you need to know, that you need to go tell people that they're already going to do it for free. You don't even have to pay them to do that. And how do you do that? Well, you engage your customer base a little more unique. You ask your customers, or you ask the people who are getting the services provided, like, hey, how are things? I'm doing a micro survey for you. You pick up the phone. We'll talk a little bit about old school marketing. Pick up the phone and actually say, what do you like about this? What do you not like about this? What do you enjoy? And then having people do exactly that, going out and saying, I had a really good experience with X, Y, and Z. I recommend them wholeheartedly. That will go through their feed, which then goes through other people liking that, et cetera, et cetera. It's crazy how that is unbelievably beneficial, and it's unbelievable how the nonprofits use it better than everybody else. They use that, right? I think it's an important thing to do, and really, and Andrea hit it, and we'll talk about this in a second, is asking customers to submit Google and Yelp reviews. It's not desperate at all. It's totally. Here's how you can do a Google review. I saw Eric Hatch do this, Hatch Realty. If anybody knows Eric Hatch and he knows his realty team, the dude is a master at marketing. Sends out an email and a little video, says, hey, I need you to do a favor for me, is go out to Google and here's the instructions and go give us a 5-star review on why it is. We'll put you in a drawing for X, Y, and Z. Totally great. There's no reason why you can't ask your raving fans. And you're not asking your mortal enemies. Your mortal enemies aren't going to give you reviews, and if you do, you can kind of you can edit those. It's fine. But your raving fans are the ones that follow you, and they want to help or they want to be involved. So if they can do that without cutting a check or spending anything from their checking account, and they can help you in your organization or your mission or your business, great, do it. There's nothing smarmy about that. So have a contest. It's like, hey, whoever, we do that for our podcast too. Hey, for everybody who likes and gives us a 5-star review on our podcast, we'll put you in a drawing for a free hour of consulting with us. Or, hey, I'm going to send you a free book if you go and review this and give us 5 stars. Nothing wrong with that. You're trying to play the game against an algorithm that's already stacked against you. And so trying to get ahead of a lot of these things is so important. Becky makes a great point. Marketing Rebellion. Mark Schaefer wrote a book, Marketing Rebellion. Fantastic about how others need to tell your story, and actually gives you a play-by-play on how to do that. So yes, there is proof on the New York Times bestseller list that what we're talking about is actually working. So yes, so need to have other people talk about why your organization or the things that you do are amazing, and that's really what you should spend a lot of time doing, is curating these amazing raving fans of what you do. If you're a band, right? If you're a band and you're trying to get people to come up to your shows, you want other people to say, hey, listen, I listened to this band, they're really good, and bring their friends. Nothing wrong with that, right? I'm sure the Beatles back in the day, when they were sitting at some sort of club in Liverpool, and they had like 4 people show up, they're like, hey, can you tell your friends to come later and hang out with us? Because I think we've got some really good songs, but nobody knows about us. I'm sure their friends went to go tell their friends, I think there's like a band that you should really get to know. I'm sure that happened. It happens to every band all the time. Why not happen to your business? So don't feel bad about trying to ask people for reviews or ask people to get engaged, because that's how marketing works in this day and age, that you want to get people on the same thing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about videos. If you are a business and you are not doing videos about what your mission is or your purpose is, etc., please start doing them. However, and I will put a caveat here, there are people in your organization who might think they should be in front of the camera that shouldn't. And that's okay. Some people are way better at writing than being on film, and they are not engaging, and they are occasionally awful. And if it's you, that's totally okay. It's you. Nobody has to be the best at everything. There are very few people that can control and command a virtual setting, or who are entertaining or have voice inflections that are interesting enough to hold the attention of the people who you're trying to get the attention from, which, by the way, we've already established, have the attention span of gnats. So really look for somebody within your organization, within your business, that can do and hold people's attention with interesting story or interesting testimonials, etc. So just look for somebody who's really good at this. Find that kid who didn't think that theater was going to pay off, but totally did. So find that person that works in your business or your industry that you want to give a shot to, that can really command a thing. It doesn't have to be done on a $12,000 camera. These giant supercomputers in our pockets have wonderful phones that are better than the cameras that came out 5 years ago that you would have paid $3,000 for. So an okay video, just make sure you do it horizontally, of you sitting at a desk or even through Zoom and just record this. It's like, hey, my name is Patrick Kirby. I'm really happy with my experience over here at Ace Hardware down the block from me. They were the most helpful people ever. I have no idea what I'm doing as a homeowner, and they walked me through this whole process. It's great. I'm always going to go and trust them. You should go there too. Great. That's a satisfied customer that you got to do and sort of get. And I, as somebody who will be scrolling through Facebook, like, hey, I know Phil. He goes there. I have the same question. I should call him. And the next time I've got a project, I'm going to probably call or I'm going to seek out that place because they have all the answers, right? And you're going to localize it because it's not the big thing. Should videos feature your staff or your satisfied customers? Yes. You're selling your business as why people should work with you in the first place. You have a lot of staff. Your staff are probably awesome. You should probably feature your staff. You should also satisfy your satisfied customers or those who are impacted by the work you do, or those that are trying to fix the social woes if you're a nonprofit leader. Whatever the case may be, get them in there. Becky, great question. Yes, you should do all those things. I want to talk a little bit about podcasting. And again, if you have any questions, or things don't make sense, or etc. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I love that this is way better than me pontificating, is giving sort of the answers as they come along. One of the things I want to talk to you about is, does your business, does your government agency, does your nonprofit have a podcast? And I will wait for you to give an answer. Do you currently have a podcast at your place of employment? And do you use that quite often? Okay, no, we do not. Okay, if you don't, it is something that you should consider doing immediately. It is a medium that is unbelievably beneficial to your stakeholders and to your clients. Okay, Pam, Michelle, and Wendy, if you wouldn't mind typing in your business, your agency, or etc. I was going to cross-reference on a list of people who are here, but if you wanted to, like, who do you work for? What do you do? Let me know, because I think it would be unbelievable to sort of work through some of these things, because if you are not doing some of those, it is going to be great. Okay, North Dakota Department of Agriculture, you totally should have a podcast. Because if Sound Ag Advice and Becky's using that for ND Farmers and Ranchers, I'm sure those are the type of individuals that you're going to want to get a hold of. And you probably have some amazing information that you want to get out to people. If you're in the field for hours at a time and you have zero things to do other than listen to AM talk radio or scroll through Facebook as you are in the field, wouldn't it be better if you just flipped on a podcast that was relatively interesting from the North Dakota Department of Agriculture, and they probably had some hot tips and tricks and things that they want to learn while they are sitting in said vehicle? It's a great opportunity for you to get in front of the people that you want to get in front of, the groups that you want to maybe culminate for votes. If you've got a bill that's coming through that you want to talk about those bills, it's captive audience at your fingertips. And I know that people are thinking that, well, I got to do a podcast, it's going to cost me $1 million. It's not. It's an $80 microphone on the internet. It is if you want to do a camera, all of your computers have one of those. It's an $80 camera. If you want to plug in it's a USB port, record all of your sound on Zoom. So if you record on Zoom, not only do you get an audio, a visual file, but you also get an audio file that can be turned into your podcast. Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm from the North Dakota Department of Agriculture. Welcome to this week's podcast. We're going to be interviewing Patrick Kirby. He's from Do Good Better. It has nothing to do with agriculture, but it's going to be a fun conversation. Listen up and we can't blah, blah, blah. Great. There's your intro. You just did your podcast. Do 30 minutes, whatever that is. Post. And there's a handful of people that would be able to edit those for a minimal amount of work, energy, or effort and cost. Plop that up on Apple iTunes, and all of a sudden you've got now a different entity and a different reason for folks to connect. Dakota Carrier Network, provide broadband data services. Okay, listen, so there's 1.5 billion questions that I have about broadband and data centers. Can I get it out here? Can I do this? Why don't you have this? What's my cost so high? You could probably say, hey, listen to our podcast. We've got a really interesting guest who is on channel whatever, or whatever your network is. There's a lot of opportunities for you to corner the market in a podcast form that is local and regional. There's not a lot of them in North Dakota. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts in North Dakota, but there's not a ton. So you could probably control that neck of the woods. And people who are looking for agricultural podcasts are going to seek out the ones most local anyway. So why wouldn't you do that? Now, if you're a nonprofit, if you are a business, you can also get people to advertise on that. That's a revenue stream that you probably haven't thought of or heard of before. And it's true. Our podcast has a whole bunch of sponsors. It pays for the show. It pays for hosting it. It pays for editing. It pays for all those kind of things. Easy peasy. Put together a little advertising sponsorship thing, like $100 a month or whatever for your name to me name drop you in the middle of my podcast. Great. Now you don't have to pay for anything out of pocket. You're revenue neutral, and you've got an extraordinary now new way to communicate with folks. Don't be like a Joe Rogan podcast with like 3.5 hours. Be very succinct, find your own audience. It's going to be great. I would get into that immediately. Okay. My final piece of advice for this sort of engagement piece is know your audience. This goes back to something we talked about earlier, which is don't fish for folks who don't care. If I'm not a farmer, I am probably not interested in the North Dakota Department of Agriculture. I just not. I don't have anything that I would do, right? So know your audience, right? Don't look to me to like, hey, we're looking for suburban white guys in West Fargo, North Dakota to listen to our podcast, because I'm not going to listen to it. So don't spend time trying to cater to an audience that doesn't really matter. Know your audience, who buys, who pays, attract them, and that's where you start. And again, get micro and then go out. Where do you post your podcast? Website, through social? Yes. So I post my podcast. It's through Spotify and Apple and Amazon. So you can get all of those and just kind of auto RSS feeds out there. I do post on my website, and then I post on social media too to get some clicks. Ironically, we just peaked at number 2 in Apple podcasts in the nonprofit world in South Africa. I don't know why, but we're number 2 in South Africa. So if anybody wants to go to Johannesburg with me, I'd be more than welcome to introduce you to raving fans at a winery somewhere in South Africa. I have no idea how that happened, but that's the power of podcasting, is that people will find you and they will share and they will listen and they will download, and all of a sudden you have niches that you didn't know you had niches in. It's crazy. Podcasting, do you recommend using a specific podcasting platform, or would Zoom provide a quality? It provides quality audio file. I would probably spend the time to have somebody help edit and sort of balance if you're not an audio expert. But the audio file that you get out of Zoom, if you've got a good microphone, is A-okay. So don't worry about anything else. You don't need to build a space. You don't need to get the super expensive, super high quality ones that super celebrities have. You don't need that. Just get a podcasting microphone. They're $80. Get like a blue Yeti microphone. Super easy to use and great. Okay. Okay. Some old school tips. I know we're at 12:46. It's been 40 minutes already. That's crazy. So more questions. Type them in if you got them. Some of the ways that I think people are not communicating enough with right now is old school ways of communicating. I know it sounds bizarre, but if you have a question about an audience or people within your realm, is picking up the phone. Super important. There are more people who pick up the phone now because A, they're home, and B, it's not an election year anymore, so people are less worried. It's either somebody you don't know, it's either a car warranty or somebody interesting, or you have them in their phone, right? So don't be the car warranty people, unless there's somebody on here who sells car warranties, and then I feel bad about that, but I don't think there is. So pick up the phone. People will answer. People will spend the time talking with you. It's not as weird as it was once before. It's kind of classic now, and people are really into giving you information over the phone. I don't know why. It's just something. Gain insight from your customer base. So ask who comes to your store, who you serve, who your base is. Ask them what they would like to see from a content standpoint. What are we doing? And ask them on the phone. What would you like to see? We're from the Dakota Carrier Network. Interested to see what you would like to know about us. Hey, we're from the the ag department. What are we not sharing with you that you'd love to know more about? Ask them. It's not weird. You're going to the source of who you're trying to serve or get in front of to get the information. It's crazy. Social media takeovers, they are not a thing anymore. I've seen a couple people try this and it just doesn't go anywhere. It seems to be a waste of time. Have people share, like your stuff otherwise. The biggest piece of advice that I can give you as far as communicating your message and being everywhere is speak everywhere. Take speaking gigs whenever you can and don't sell them on stuff. Be out in front of people. Whether it's Zoom or now that things are kind of opening up from in-person events, try to speak in front of everybody you know. It is the single best way to convert people from didn't know who the hell you were to I'm kind of interested to what they do to I could be a raving fan if I knew a little bit more about them. This is a good example. Be on other people's podcasts. Find other podcasts that you find interesting. Ask to be a guest. People who are podcast hosts are constantly looking for guests to produce content. And it doesn't matter if they have a host of followers, right? You get to take that audio piece that you did an interview on, take the audio file, post it up on all of your stuff. Like, hey, we had an interview with this random podcast that we had today. Great content, take a listen. First of all, it's great social media content. Secondly, it's great content you get to email out to people. Third, it's great to have it on your website of like media and it's like, hey, things to know about us. Number 4, you can write about the podcast, right? So what did you talk about? Was there an interesting topic within that? So take a line or two from the podcast and you can write an entire blog about it. You could write an entire article in an e-newsletter about what you talked about in the podcast and then send them back to the podcast. You see where I'm getting at? Like the engagement is there. We just need to be creative about that. There's always a scene in a movie where somebody at some point in time is trying to solve a murder. And bear with me for a second. And it's always like, I need to find the bad guy or the terrorist or the whatever, the bad guy of the mob. And then there's like a bunch of strings attached out to like red lines, like this is a henchman and this is a henchman. You're doing that with your audience, but you're trying to get as many places as possible to lead back to you. You're the mastermind, right? You're the head honcho. So go and get on all of these podcasts and get all these interviews and just submit. Be active. You don't have to create 10-page blog posts. You don't have to write War and Peace. You don't even have to be that super unique and creative. Just tell your story and be awesome and be authentic and be enthusiastic about these things. All right, we've got 10 minutes left. I want to make sure that you've got enough time for closing remarks, and I want to see if anybody else has any questions. But some people ask in the nonprofit world specifically is, Pat, this sounds fantastic. I don't know how I'm going to have the time to do that. You should, and even if it's 20 minutes or 40 minutes a day, be purposeful with your time on how you carve out purposeful posting, purposeful marketing for your select audience. Okay, if you don't know where to start, I would advise one day a week, every day, 1 day a week, every day, do one thing to move the needle forward for your communication. I've framed it out in a book I wrote, but it works for not only nonprofits, but really marketers too. It is Mondays are for planning, Tuesdays are for doing, Wednesdays are for documenting, Thursdays are for celebrating, and Fridays are for appreciating. So if you don't have a framework on what to post, when to communicate, what to talk about, use this framework. Planning, doing, documenting, celebrating, and appreciating. So on Mondays, you need to just spend 20 minutes of the time to think, okay, what do I have to get done and what audience do I need to get in front of ASAP? Who is that? And make that your priority for the week. And if you spend 20 minutes figuring out, I need to post this on Thursday and I need to do this, that's my priority, good. You've already carved out a block of time and you've accomplished something off of your to-do list. Tuesdays are for doing. Make an ask. Make a request to be on a show. Make a request to be on a podcast. Record a podcast. Record a quick video testimonial. Do something. Planning to plan the plan for the sake of planning a plan is the worst you can do with your time. If you have actionable items at the end of the week, that is fantastic. So make sure that on Tuesday you actually execute something. Now, if you've had a conversation with a client, with a donor, with somebody in your realm, and you probably have this great idea of like, hey, this is something interesting and unique, and I never knew this, right? Document it. What did you learn about your clients? What did you learn about your stakeholders? What did you learn about the individuals within your community? Document it, because you're going to go back and you're going to say, okay, I don't remember everything. I thought it was my superpower. Apparently it's not. I need to do all of these things. Do it. And then you need to celebrate on Thursdays. Lift up somebody else. Lift up another organization. Lift up another business. Lift up somebody, and that becomes a social media post. I think this business did amazing things. It doesn't even have to be about you. And if you post about somebody else, all of a sudden you get in front of fantastically new audiences. And then finally, spend your Friday appreciating. Say thank you to those that you serve. Say thank you to those that give you money or donate or support you or volunteer for you or are your business buddies. Whatever you do, spend time thanking people. And if you do nothing else, write handwritten thank you notes on a Friday, because by the time you get around to Monday and you start planning your work week, the last thing that your stakeholders will remember is people saying that you said thank you without any soliciting or selling or whatever. Planning, doing, documenting, celebrating, and appreciating. You've got a framework to build upon on what the hell do I do from a marketing or a communication standpoint? Do that. And with that, with 5 minutes to spare, I would be happy to open it up to questions that you might have. That went really quick, Sarah. That is a quick bit.
It was quick and it was awesome.
Yes. So, any questions? I would love to answer them. Please.
I don't know so much that it's a question, but we've been trying to, like you said, do more podcasting, but for us, we're talking about doing some video casting.
Yeah.
And one source of information that, I mean, I don't know why it took me this long for it to dawn on me, but we get questions, especially now during the pandemic, coming into our email all the time from customers and from our partners. And it's like, duh, if this person has this question, how many other people have this question? So let's do let's do 10 minutes going out through and explaining it instead of just explaining it to one person via email or a phone call. Why can't we do a little quick video recording and send it out to our other 600 partners that originate loans on behalf of our agency? So, or post it for customers. So,
and because you can record both your audio and visual on Zoom, now you've got two mediums that you get to go post on, which means if there's somebody who is interested in just listening to the podcast or just wants a quick video, they've got now two options to get the same information.
Yep. And then and then go back and put it on our website so that our partners can go back and search for that information. So.
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah. Because we all like to look for things on YouTube. So basically we create our own YouTube.
Create your own YouTube page. And that's another avenue that you've got, right? So now you could just go, hey, follow us on YouTube, go look us, or you can go send them to places that you have. And that's a great advantage too, is that you're just giving your customers who may have a question about something, or who your stakeholders or your donors may have a question about something, you probably have an answer, and it's probably housed somewhere in the digital landscape. Well, now you can send them directly to them.
There you go.
You never have to say, well, I don't know anything about that. I got an answer. It's episode 14 of the podcast in season 2.
Yes. All right. Well, if anybody else has questions, we'll hang on here for a second longer. I do have some closing remarks. You can post them in the chat. You can raise your hand and I will unmute you. I just wanted to thank Patrick for presenting today. We greatly appreciate him sharing his expertise. For our attendees who want to learn more about Patrick and Do Good Better Consulting, and who doesn't, you can find him online at dogoodbetterconsulting.com. He is social too. He's, as he indicated, he's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And if you're interested in learning more about North Dakota Professional Communicators, you can visit us online as well. We're at aboutndpc.org. We also have a Facebook page, or you're welcome to contact me directly. My name is Sarah Mutter again, and I'm the communications manager at the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency. So it's probably the easiest way to find me is to find the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency. So, all right. Anything else? Doesn't look like it. Okay, well, thank you all for your time today. And thank you again, Patrick, and go enjoy some sunshine on our behalf. So
I will.
all right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.